Some buildings stand in our towns, and we don't know the story of who lived there, what they believed, what they did, and who they were. A short time ago, I purchased a house, but it was filled with someone else's memories. Through renovations, I learned the story of the previous owner, but also learned that so many in her community didn't know her either. Thankfully, I could still meet her and chat with her, and now so can you.
Well, ready to go, yeah.
I haven't gone this road before. I did what I had to do and that was it.
Well, I can say that going through the house, I feel almost like I know you now. After seeing your art and your legacy here.
Did you manage to get around in the house?
Yeah.
There was a bunch of paper down at the corner of the cabinet. And in that bunch of paper was a bunch of poetry. Did you notice it at all?
So I found some boxes with some writing and some artwork that you've done, and I kept all that aside. I saved that. Yeah, I did find some.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we tried to save as much as we could. So any of the family pictures or things like that. So I've been pretty careful as I go through to make sure that I try and protect and keep and preserve as much as I can. And I can understand that basically I didn't want to talk too much about the house today. I wanted to talk about you and to learn more of your story, because as I've gone through...
That's what terrifies me.
Oh, it shouldn't.
No, it was for anybody and everybody that asked for me.
Okay.
Lockheed hired, what's his name?
Les Graff.
To set up the arts and crafts program in the province. Les Graff. Did you interview him?
No, I haven't yet.
He's the one you should be interviewing, not me.
Oh no, I don't know about that. There's a lot of people who think your art is very beautiful that have come across it now.
There's quite a few pieces in the house.
There was a little bit here and a little bit there.
Oh,
Yeah, and so I put it all together, and I'm going to see, with your permission, if we might be able to do a little exhibition at some point somewhere and get your art back out on display.
Beg your pardon?
Yeah, I said you were a very talented artist.
Well, that's what they tell me, but I never thought of that. All my firing was outside.
So what inspired you? Where did you get your inspiration for your artwork? Up here?
Everything came from up there. I had no special training. It all came from up here. I was one of 4 people that represented Canada or Alberta. Anyway, I was surprised that I was asked. It was overwhelming. No, but I had that large vase at the museum, if you've seen it. That went to Europe, and it was coming back. I had one pot with Alberta, set up Alberta House in London, England. I had one pot that was there for several months. And they set up, at the same time, they set up a Alberta house in Japan, and I had another one there for several months. But then they returned them to Canada, and they're in the museum in Edmonton. But Les Graff could tell you more about my activities as a potter than I can now.
So I had heard that you would travel around and find really good clay from all different areas.
I dug all my own clay, just anywhere, but you get so that you know all clay isn't equal. Some has sand in it, some has good sand in it that you can use, that you use in pottery, but there's also sand that the pottery won't hold together. And you get so you know your clay, you know your soil. And I simply, when something comes out of here, it's not the same as something that you studied. If you studied it, it's sort of in a half memory comes back to you, and the different stages, and with different some whatever I was polishing with, either with stone or, and they were all fired on top of the ground.
That's much different than using a kiln, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it had to stay a certain length of time in order to mature.
Karen brought some pictures here. So that looks like that's you.
Yep, I think so. Those are all black.
And shiny. Look at what a nice finish is on those.
They're not all shiny, that's not.
And
I had hair then, needs cutting.
so
Well, I was sort of in charge of arts and crafts at Provost.
I saw a book on how to learn Cree, and I wondered if you'd learned it.
I might have learned a word or two.
Huh? Well, there's probably a lot of kids out there that have good memories of learning from you. I guess they'd be grown-ups now. Yeah, that was one.
Oh, that's my very first one.
That one is. Well, for your first one, that turned out pretty darn good.
This one went to Europe.
The big one.
This was in Alberta House. And this one, or else it was the other way around. There should be another pot there somewhere.
Now, I was going to ask you about your drawings. So I've seen lots of these little drawings. So what are they?
And that is drawn freehand,
Yep.
and I could do it. It's perfect. Those are very symmetrical. Everything is. What I would do here, I would just go close my eyes and just run my hand any which way, and then I'd look to see what I could see in it. So that's what you see is what I saw in that scrawl I made there.
So, well, I see, and that was only a few years ago. So do you still draw?
I can't even use my hands. That's what happens when you get old. Well, I traveled so much. I was up in the Yukon, was faded into the States, and that's why you found the house the way it is, because I didn't have time for the house. I guess I don't have to tell you that. you don't have a choice. It depends on how strong the urge is, but
Was your whole family creative? Your mom or your sisters or?
well, I don't know. My mother was from the Ukraine too. And I don't know, she was about 18 or 20 when she came to this country, so I don't know whether she, but Ukrainian people are quite clever. So I really don't know. She didn't talk about her life. She was the only one in her family that came to this country for a while. We lived in Provost, well, in Hayter District, Provost District. But she didn't know that I became clever. I had three sisters, but they didn't. They were gone early. And I'm wondering why I'm still here, because I was ready to go last year. Well, I'm still wondering if I'm going up or down, or if there is an up and down. I'm very curious about the other side. I was a loner all my life. I had three sisters, but I didn't spend too much time with them. I was off telling myself stories and daydreaming out loud. I lived in Edmonton for a while, and I lived in Jasper. I moved to Jasper fairly early.
As a young lady?
Well, I thought I was.
Well.
What about Les Graff? Well, he was Lougheed's right-hand man. Well, I worked for him. Wherever he sent me, that's where I went. He found all my work for me. He brought me into home classes, spend a week to teach how to make pottery, and then I move on to the next one. Oh, I'm sure that people became potters. For me, I had no choice. The need to create the pottery so strong that I did not have resistance. I just had to do it.
It was in you.
Well, if you came from a family of artists like you said, and you yourself are an artist, you would understand what I'm talking about.
I wanted to create, you know.
Want to express
Yes.
the inner man.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't do it, for some reason or other, you're nothing. You're just nothing.
Then maybe we can encourage people to live their lives more fully. I read a quote that you had said something along the lines of, when you're making pottery, it becomes everything to you, that you almost can't think of anything else. Do you still feel if you had some clay in front of you, would you still be inclined to try and make and form and create?
Oh, the urge is so strong, you can't really resist it. I regret that I didn't work at it after I came here, and I haven't done anything, but I can't use my hands. And that, between not being able to walk, and I walked up and down, digging clay, hunting for clay. Well, I was very happy with that. But
Well, I think that what you've left and what people will see from your artwork is quite remarkable. And so I wanted to tell you what the plans are for the house, so you have an idea.
all right.
I think that the work you did was pretty extraordinary. And I don't think there's many people who grow up in a small town that do things like you did.
I'm sort of a collector, but I don't stick around and do anything with it.
No, well, I look at the house and I see potential for it to represent your art and who you are. So we are repairing and cleaning and trying to make it a nice a space that people could maybe visit.
Well, you sort of can overlook how I left the house because you can understand where I'm coming from.
Of course. That's why it didn't bother me one bit to roll up my sleeves and do the work. And in a sense, I'm glad that it was me that ended up with the house because I can pull out the things that I know are...
Well, I'm very honored. I'm still in shock.
I'm applying to get your house designated as a historical site in your honor, so that they would say and have to protect that home and say that this was Mary Borgstrom's house, the artist.
Well, I think that was such a great honor that you're doing that. I was utterly shocked when they told me.
I want to do something to respect your legacy and something for the town to remember you. What I'm hoping to do is to have a little plaque put in front of the house with your name. We're sprucing up the old house, and it's looking good.
Well, thank you very much for that. My daughter can check on you once in a while to see if she's
She sure can.
lying. However, the way I had collected, I knew if I could get to the house I'd be fine because there's no way I could fall down.
No, you'd stay upright for sure.
There's a lot of fixing to do on that house.
There is. I'm up for it.
Well, thank you for the interview.
So was it so bad?
No, it wasn't bad at all.
Well,
I'm so glad to have the chance to meet Mary, who survived the Depression and came out stronger, found her passion for art later in life and excelled at a time when most people would have been winding down. That's when she worked the hardest at her craft and kept learning and teaching for many years. And it goes to show that sometimes you have to look a little deeper and dig to understand the whole story.